All right, in what is going to be a stress test in terms of performance and reach, and quite frankly, what you're into, let us preview the ACC Championship game right here on the #1 college football show. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If you are new to the #1 college football show YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment. Let me know whether the hell you thought this was worth your while, because frankly, I just don't think that there are that many Clemson, Southern Methodist, or even ACC fans out there for us to keep doing segments like this. And one of the criticisms that I often field is, RJ, you talk about these few teams or this many teams or this team a lot more than this other team. And one of the reasons is things like this don't usually perform, which is another way of you saying you don't really care. And I don't really want to talk about teams that you don't really care about. But this being the ACC Championship game, and this game being for at least one spot, if not two, in the 12-team college football playoff, means that perhaps if you do not have a team in this particular battle, whether you are one of the 150,000 alumni that make up the SMU fan base or the many thousand who claim to make up the Clemson fan base, you're going to be interested in this one. Perhaps you are an Oregon fan who expects to play one of these teams in the playoff, or Penn State for that matter, or maybe, just maybe, Ohio State, who's going, all right, we kind of need SMU to win this so that we can get a clearer path on what we're going to be about, because Notre Dame's probably locked up one of these spots to begin with. But I think as we're talking about this game, that's a great place for most people to come in from a Big Tent perspective before we get into the hardcore football part of this. If Southern Methodist beats Clemson, they improve to 12-1, and they win the ACC Championship, be their second conference championship in as many years, and they would be very good proof that you can go from the G5 to the Power 4 and compete immediately, even in the midst of what was a quarterback derby at the beginning that Kevin Jennings ends up winning. And you can get to the college football playoff, and you can have a straight road to winning the national championship with Rhett Lashlee in Dallas. That's phenomenal. I think that's one of the cool parts about the college football playoff and the extended format is now, if you are good in one of these top 4 leagues, you're going to get a chance to play for the belt. On the other hand, if you're Clemson, this is the only way you're getting into the college football playoff. You don't have the resume to just get into this thing on merit alone. You had to make this game and win it. You couldn't just make this game like Georgia or Texas or Penn State or Oregon and expect to be selected, because we just don't think that you're that strong. Now, in their defense, the teams that they have lost to were all ranked at one point or another in the top 25, but you would make the argument that Louisville got in that spot by beating Clemson in the first place. Outside of that, beat by Georgia 34-3, same Georgia that lost to Ole Miss, same Georgia got taken in deep water by Georgia Tech, the same Georgia that got taken in deep water by Florida, same Georgia got beat by 3-loss Alabama. It's not necessarily a great look. It's not a bad look. It's not a great look, right? And then South Carolina, who I think is a good football team because they got 6 wins against teams that were ranked, have been ranked, 7 wins against teams that were ranked, have been ranked in the top 25, and all 3 of their losses are to teams that have been ranked in the top 25. Good football team. That said, you lost, right? And you don't usually lose the state championship. Usually Clemson walks away with that one. Now it seems like the Gamecocks they're coming, and they're coming pretty hard, right? They're on top of you. They're getting after you. Perhaps now is the time for you to put your hands up and say, I said, no, sir. I said, get off me. So now, going in this ACC Championship game, you get an opportunity to let everybody know, oh, this is our house. And I do mean that. Clemson has won 8 in a row since getting in the ACC Championship game. Like, the last time they made the ACC title game and lost is 2009. When they get there, they usually walk away with the trophy. And that needs to be true for them going into this thing, because it feels like unless SMU absolutely gets blown out, they're going to make the 12-team playoff, and they're probably going to knock out another team that might be on the bubble, like Indiana, like Ohio State, like Tennessee, like Alabama. We can keep going down the line on this one. Like, there's lots of teams. What you're doing is you're going to make this more difficult by perhaps not playing your best football, knowing that you don't have to play your best football and you can play just well enough. But if you are SMU, you're also playing to be one of the highest ranked conference champions in the sport, which also gives you that first round bye. And I am a fan of having the 5 seed. I think no matter who I am, I would want the 5 seed because I get to host the first ever playoff home game against the 12 seed. Now, what are the odds that the 12 seed might end up being Clemson if they won this game? That would be interesting. That'd be fun. I'd be curious to find out what that is. But if you're Southern Methodist, you're going to try to go win this thing because, A, you begged to get into this league, and you took the short end of the stick getting into this league because you're not even getting a payout from the TV money on this thing for a couple years. And still, you showed up and you performed. And you know what? You asked your fan base to sell out, and they did. They sold out that Gerald J. Ford Stadium, and you have given them win after win after win. Your only loss is to a 10-win BYU team that just narrowly missed out on playing for the conference championship in the Big 12. So that's cool. And as far as the quarterbacks are concerned, it's really about whether or not Cade Klubnik comes to play. Because if Cade Klubnik comes to play, Clemson has been a different football team. When he's able to get loose, running and passing, they can go beat anybody they want to play. And now the Garrett Riley experience is actually coming into fruition, unlike it did last year. He's already thrown for 3,000 yards, and he is the second leading rusher on a team that's got a 1,000-yard rusher in Phil Maffa. Antonio Williams is great. I really love Bryant Wesco Jr., and I've liked Troy Stellato for a very long time, to say nothing of Jake Brenningstool being a pretty damn good tight end in all things considered. I think this team is pretty good. I think Barrett Carter is one of the best all-around linebackers in the sport, and one of the things that Clemson has always been really good about is fielding players on that defensive side, defensive line, front seven that can absolutely go, to say nothing of what they got at the corner spots. I mean, A.J. Terrell's little brother Avion is over there playing outstanding football. I think he's got, He's got 2 interceptions this year so far? 4. Nope, 4 passes defended and 2 interceptions. I had it right. And there's also a Khalil Barnes who's got 3. So throwing the ball against them is not a given, but one of the things that I really enjoy about Rhett Lashlee and that offense is they spread the ball around. They do a really good job. So Kevin Jennings, who's thrown for 2,700 yards so far this season, also can get it out to a lot of different guys. And I think Roderick McDaniel is going to be the dude that Roderick Daniels is going to be the dude that many people fixate on, but they got all sorts of dudes that can catch the ball out there at SMU. And then, of course, Brashard Smith is going to be your bell cow. Like, that dude's already gone for over 1,100 yards this year. Wouldn't surprise me to find out he goes for 150 in this game. The thing to worry you if you're a Clemson fan about this SMU team, if you are indeed worried about SMU, I know who is SMU to you, is they have been really good defensively the last few games. I mean, they've reeled off 9 in a row since their close loss to BYU team that we didn't think was good at the time, but we know is good now. And that defense has given up all of 13 points in the last 2 games combined. And this is a really good development for an SMU defense that gave up 42 to Texas Christian earlier in the year, and has given up 27, 20, 25 or more in 5 of the last 7 games. So if you are looking for a trend, perhaps it's that this defense is gettable, but right now they haven't been gotten. Now, you play Cal and you play Virginia. Those aren't exactly offensive juggernauts, right? Especially knowing what you may or may not be able to get out of a Jaden Ott at Cal, because I think Jaden Ott going for 13-37, I wouldn't have put that down. I mean, even 50% Jaden Ott I thought would go for more than that against SMU, and it wasn't that way. It was a demonstrative win, 38-6. It felt like when everybody else was doing the least to not get into this position, they were doing the most. Like, I'm thinking about Syracuse and Miami. All Miami had to do was beat Syracuse, and they be in the Clemson spot playing for the conference championship. And shout out to Fran Brown, who FaceTimed with Dabo Swinney. And Dabo didn't want to tell us exactly what he said, but he said it was one of the most entertaining phone calls he ever had, because I'm sure that Fran Brown kind of like, you owe me. See what I did for you? See how I helped you? You owe me. Because that's what I would have done as well. I'm going to continue to talk about what I think is going to be more interesting about this than anything else, which is if Southern Methodist can pull off this W against a team that routinely wins the ACC Championship game, we're going to have to start talking about SMU in a very real way, and we're going to start talking about the transfer portal and what it means to be great in this new 12-team era. And I don't know how Clemson is going to react to that. I do know that they're probably going to do what most teams that now think of themselves as blue bloods, and they should think of themselves in the blue blood category as winning national championships in the college football playoff era. They're going to redouble their efforts, and they're going to get after this. However, I don't think it's going to come to that. So when we do the predictions, I'll get into this a little bit more, but I did want to get out here and say the spread's 2.5, and I think that's right. But if Cade Klubnik comes out and he wants to go for 3 bills and a buck on the ground, it's going to be tough for SMU. watch the defense very early. If SMU's defense can keep a lid on the first couple of possessions of that Clemson offense, they got a shot to go get this thing done, and wouldn't that be remarkable?